Still works. Still
And-
flies.
The one that I use has gotta be that old or more,
Yeah.
and it still works,
I don't think
but I know I
it
need
work.
time. I've been told that
He has a
it's
work
gonna,
computer that
it's
he
gonna
uses
go bye-bye.
almost.
Oh, and
He
that's
does
never stopped
he does
supporting
the
it.
majority of his
The only
work.
way to
On the
get
web,
work
yeah,
is
so
to
there's another
send
way.
you an email and
Personally,
every
coordinated
laptop.
after
I
my personal laptop.
Oh, yeah.
blast to everybody.
I do less on
Now.
Yeah.
Now.
But you were working on Tuesday.
I was working on Tuesday. I still have that one
Yes,
too.
and if you can, I can go ahead and start.
Multiple laptops, multiple
Let's not
screens.
get started.
Why don't you do that?
Okay, all right, I think we're gonna get started. And the poor Zoom people, well, poor Mary, she's standing in for her husband too. So, anyway, okay. We're gonna get started. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out in the rain. I can't believe I'm excited that there's rain, but I am excited, so thank you for coming. Just want to make a couple of announcements before we get started this evening. We've got a couple of meetings coming up. I want to tell you that, a couple of fun things. So we're going to be celebrating our 2-year anniversary on December 12th at Sonino Vineyard. This is going to be our annual holiday get-together, but we're also doing an annual meeting. So the first half hour from 5:30 to 6 is an annual meeting where we'll be electing our board of directors, and I'll be giving you a report on the fine state of our association, and then followed by the get-together. We are asking people to RSVP, please, by December 6th, and to submit your payment. It's $10 for members and $20 for non-members, so it behooves everyone to join. So it's going to be a fun evening. And then we have already started planning for next year. So our first meeting of the year is on Thursday, January 16th. Again, it'll be here from 6 to 7:30. What bumps challenge our highway department? And we've got some great speakers. We have the new police chief, Steve Bratton. We have Ann Smith, who's on the town board, and she's the liaison to the transportation committee. And then last but not least is Dan Goodwin, who's the superintendent of highway. So that's going to be on January 16th. So please join us for that. And speaking of joining us, please join us with your membership. This is the time of the year where we send out the renewals, and we hope that you all, I know some of you have renewed this evening, and new members. So we welcome all of you, and we depend on those membership dollars to keep us going. So thank you so very much. One of the things that I always say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have my back to you. One of the things I always say, the Civic Association creates conversation in the community. That's what we're going to be doing this evening. But we started doing coffee meetups the day after our meeting. And so tomorrow morning at 8 Hands Farm at 11 a.m., we're going to have a coffee meetup. And this is a completely unstructured, informal conversation back and forth with whoever shows up, however the conversation flows. And I mean, as Pat will say and others, it's really been an interesting effort. So 8 Hands Farm, look for me, 11 a.m. We'd love to have you. So, and I think that is it. So I'm going to introduce Dave Bergen, who is a founding member of the Cutchogue Civic Association. He's on the board. He's on the parks department. He does everything. But Dave is going to be our moderator and a presenter tonight. So, Dave.
Well, thank you. Good evening, and thanks for coming out on this rainy, cold night. I'm going to cover a little bit of the history of the parks just to start off, and not a lot, but probably everybody sitting here is familiar with the Nassau Point Park and the Allison Park. And let me back up. I shouldn't say each hamlet has their own park district in South Old Town, because Mattatuck Laurel is a park district and Cutchogue New Suffolk is a park district. So we have 2 hamlets under our Cutchogue New Suffolk Park District. Southwold has their own park district, East Marion does, and Orient does. And some of these districts have a lot of parks. We just have a few, and everybody's familiar with, I think, Nassau Point. Allison, which we have been called Pequash Park. Where do you think our other two pieces of parkland are? You're not allowed to participate.
I know the answers to that too.
Well, yes,
Right here,
nope,
not in a solar.
no, no,
New Suffolk right down at the beach.
no. That's town, that's
That's
town.
town.
Yeah,
We
that's
have
not,
another,
that's not,
we have another,
we have two other pieces of property.
really?
Yep.
Sound?
One on the Sound, nope, we do not have one on the Sound. Okay, right in the middle of beautiful downtown Cutchogue, there is a little corner that has a stone there that says Wally Kalin Park. And that is a park that's under the jurisdiction, I'll say, of the Park District. The other one that's very interesting that I didn't even know about when I was elected to office was on Halls Creek. On Halls Creek, there was a chunk of land that, and I'm not sure which farmer it was, owned and didn't want it anymore, wanted to get it off the tax rolls because it's all marsh. It's entirely marsh. So it was donated to the Park District. And there was one time, there was a thought by one person that maybe build a walkway over it so people could walk over the marshlands, like a lot of people, if you've been down to Florida, and a lot of their parks are over wetlands you can walk over. But up here, the DEC kind of frowns on giving permits to put structure in marsh. And I think the town trustees would probably also. So it's a piece of property, but it's just left as natural. But that is part of our parks areas. But the two ones that we know about primarily are the Nassau Point Park and the Dave Allison Park, which is at the end of Pequash Avenue. The Park District itself was established by the South Pole Town Board back in 1958. So that's when the parks were born, so to speak, here. And then again, they reestablished it in 1960. The first commissioners were Frank Rogers as chairman, Corman Rathwell as secretary, and Curtis Horton as treasurer. Some names that, probably old-time names, some of these folks you might know. I knew Curtis Horton, but these are the original commissioners. And their budget for the two parks was a whopping $1,000, which is interesting because the 2025 budget is $285,000. So that'll tell you what's happened with the parks since they were first came around in 1960. The Pequash Park, we know now as Dave Allison, it was renamed in honor of Dave Allison, was purchased from the Fleet family in 1969. And the town board approved a bond issue of $22,000 to purchase that property. The land cost was $11,000, and the construction of the bathroom house there was another $11,000. So it was the $22,000 bond that was floated to establish Pequash Park. The Wally Kalin Park, that was originally under the guidance of the Cutchogue Chamber of Commerce at the time. And that was a little bit larger area than what it is now. And what happened was when that intersection was, as people who have been around here for years know, was such a dangerous intersection. Not that it isn't today, but was still such a dangerous intersection that finally the town worked with the state to realign that, widen it, create the bigger parking areas there. And the owner of that property there was the Turp family. And I'll just be kind and say that Mr. Turp sometimes was a little bit of a challenge to work with, for the town to work with. and for the state to work with. And so what was Wally Caitlin Park kind of got squeezed down into the little triangle it is today. And at that point then, the Chamber of Commerce then gave it over to the Park District. And really what we do there, well, we pay to have somebody come in and clean it up, plant some flowers in the spring. Like I said, do clean up the clock that there we maintain. And then the park bench that's there that unfortunately was stolen about a year ago, we had to buy a new one. Why somebody decided to walk in there and pick up the park bench and walk away with it, who knows? But one day the park bench decided to go for a walk, and that was that. So that's the Wally Caitlin Park. Now the Nassau Point Park has some little bit of extra history to it. That was my notes here. The property purchase was finalized in September of '62. There were a couple of different pieces of property there. And the bond that was floated for that was $27,350 to purchase the parcels plus build that comfort station that was there. And the cost of legal and filing fees. So think of that, $27,000 for that beautiful piece of property and to put up a building. It's absolutely amazing. What little piece of, and then what also was a large event to happen down there in the creation of that park was, for those of you like myself who have been around here for about 1,000 years, when the state came in and the feds came in New York State, all combined and dredged the channels of the inlets along Southold here. The dredge spoils for Mud Creek and Eugene's Creek were dumped up there along the causeway. For those of you who are not familiar with this, when I was a kid, what is right now the parking lot, that was the Nassau Point Causeway. There wasn't, more than another 50 feet, I'd say, to the west of that road before you hit water. And so, as I knew as a kid, and I knew even more so, my grandparents would tell me it was quite often that the Nassau Point Causeway would go underwater. And so it was killing a couple birds with one stone with dredging plus putting the spoils there. They could elevate that piece of property and so elevate the Nassau Point Causeway. But how did the Park District benefit? Well, the road now became part of the Park District, the old road, and that became the parking lot. So when you see it today, what's paved there is actually the old access road onto the causeway. And then the other thing that was interesting that happened in '62 was, and I'm going to read from the minutes of the Nassau Point Property Owners Association meeting of August 23rd of '62. On February 12th, 1959, and these were written by the board members of Nassau Point, we were struck by a bombshell. On that day, Mr. Baxter informed us, who was then in the process of building a new home, that the Cutchogue Suffolk Park District was contemplating purchasing the Gravy property on the south end of Nassau Point for a public park. This development of this parcel would have created chaotic traffic conditions on Nassau Point, and unquestionably would have severely affected the real property values on the point. Through the efforts of Mr. Baxter and its members, the association gathered together during the winter months, and after many conferences with park, village, and town officials, the Gravy project was blocked. The Park Commission's proposal to exchange the Gravy property for the causeway was turned down. The Commission therefore suggested the purchase of the causeway up to its full length. Facing the threat of condemnation inherently possessed by the Park Commission, the Causeway Association had no alternative but to negotiate with the Commission and obtain the best possible deal. The Board of Directors and the Committee of the Association were given a vote of confidence and authorized to negotiate with the Park Commission to bring the matter to a conclusion at a suggested price of $15,000. but every effort would be made to retain for the association as much causeway property as possible. Through the efforts of Mr. Baxter, who gave great amount of his time and the work of this committee, the agreement was finally arrived where the Causeway Association retained 300 feet of the causeway, and a contract for the sale of the causeway was then entered into. Now here's the other interesting part of this. There have been rumors that the park commissioner is contemplating the erection of bathhouses, hot dog stands, candy shops along the causeway. For the information of all those who are not acquainted with the plans proposed on the causeway, or at various meetings of the association, officials of the park commission and the town board outlined the following conditions for the sale: that neither the town board nor the park commission wants any part of any structure for the sale of hot dogs, candy, soda, or any other staples. They do not want any part of bathhouses. In view of the fact that the beach is to be used only by the residents of Cutchogue, New Suffolk, there is not now or will there ever be a need for any facilities other than the one that was built there. So it's very interesting. Now, how does that affected the commissioners? You know, it's funny. I guess about 6-7 years ago, they put up a little attendance shed at the entrance there to Nassau Point, and then there's a little storage shed right past that. And technically, they were never supposed to put those things up there because they were agreed there would not be any other structures ever put there when the place was sold. So, sold to them. So that's a little bit about the history of the Park District. At this point, I will turn it over to Pat for her part of the presentation. We'll be glad to take questions at the end.
Yep. So I'm going to talk about the organization and how the park is organized. So we have 3 commissioners, 3, and we're elected annually to serve a term of 3 years. So every year, 1 commissioner comes up for re-election. So on that note, please come out and vote on December 10th. We have 2 positions, a 3-year term and a 1-year term to complete the position that was vacated by a resignation. So we have Steve is on the ballot and we have an empty line. So it's an elected position. It's non-paid, but not quite volunteer, not exactly the same thing. We have regular meetings here at the library. It's been for the last maybe 2 years monthly, but as things settle down, we are hoping to go to either bi-monthly meetings. The announcements for those meetings are in the legal section of the Suffolk Times, and they're posted at the parks themselves to tell you when those meetings are, what time. They're typically on a Tuesday here at between 5 and about 7 o'clock. Okay, we do have a web page, and it's cnsparkdistrict.com, and it has some information. It's not really a robust web page, but we are working on that and trying to bring more information in and have it be a little more easy to navigate and more user friendly. Because right now it's kind of real basic. So the best way to reach the commissioners or the park managers is through that website. There's an email spot, contact us, and you can send us an email and you will get a response from an email. You can have questions, suggestions, etc. So that's that. So how do we decide what's on our agenda? We get feedback from the community. We get, comments and complaints and compliments and various, people voice their concern or issues that they have, and that generally filters back to get onto the agenda for at least an item for discussion and items for discussion on the work session, and then those potentially get moved onto into the business meeting for resolution if that's what's warranted. So there's also some legal requirements, regulatory requirements. Those are the things that get moved forward onto the agenda. then, and ideas from the commissioners, like if we see an issue that we want to discuss or an opportunity for improvement or things like that. So those are the things that get moved forward to the agenda. After discussion, investigation, et cetera, we make a decision. The Board of Commissioners has the sole authority to make the decisions. So we don't fall under, the town of Southold has given us independent authority, so we don't fall under their jurisdiction, quite frankly. We have, we're independent. Okay, so the parks are open year-round, from dawn to dusk, right? The beach is officially open usually the last day of school in June, which is usually around the last weekend of June, and then they close on Labor Day. And the parks, the park facilities are open when the parks are open. So when there's attendance and or lifeguards on, the bathrooms are open, and any other facilities like whatever, the showers are turned on and stuff like that. Otherwise, they're not, right? So the parks are open to residents of the hamlets of Cutchogue and New Suffolk. And you have to prove residency to do that. So we have some rule. You have to show your car registration to get a parking sticker. And or if you don't have a car registration, you can provide a utility bill in your name, a current utility bill in your name that you're a resident. So who works for us, right? So we have one year-round employee. It's a clerk. It was Fred Kalin up until he retired, 2 months ago maybe? And he held that position for like 45 years. So we are in search of a new clerk. And you know, Fred Kalin was active when I was going back through the archives. Fred Kalin's name is on the very first document from 1958 when the park was formed. So although he wasn't the clerk then and he wasn't a commissioner, his names are on documents that he was in attendance. I guess he was a notary. He notarized things. So Fred Kalin has been involved with the Cutchogue New Suffolk Park District from the very beginning. And I found that very interesting. And he gave us a lot of good dedicated years. So we're happy about that. So we have a seasonal temporary employees. Those are our lifeguards, our attendants, our park attendants that monitor the park, you know, that let people in the parking lot and they take care of the facilities. They pick up and make sure the bathrooms are stocked and things like that. And we have a seasonal beach manager. It's a seasonal temporary. We have a beach manager that runs the lifeguards and the attendants and makes sure the beach is all running well over the summer. That position is also vacant and we will be recruiting for that for this summer coming. We have some contracted workers, right? We have a handyman in Sprang, and we have a person who does our procurement and some of our legal stuff is Chris. And then we have outside services that we contract with, right? We have plumbers and landscapers and sprinkler services. We also have an attorney that advises us. And so we will be hiring new lifeguards, a beach manager, and we're recruiting for a clerk at this time. So there's the word on the street. So we will have positions available this summer for lifeguards and attendants because we have people that, you know, they're kids that I have, you know, they're done with grad school already. They're moving on to be grown-ups.
We hope. Their parents hope.
Their parents hope, right? So every year we have people that return and we have people that are new, and you know that's just the nature of the business. It's a it's a kind of a nice summer job if you like going to the beach. So so upcoming, what do we have that's upcoming? So we're getting a new playground at Nassau Point Beach. I'll show you a picture. It has been a long time coming. There it is. That is the artist rendering of the playground for Nassau Point. This was to replace the slide and some of the other stuff that hadn't been there. And that paperwork is done and it'll be going in, it's too late in the season to really put it in now, so it'll be going in the spring. We're hoping for like April 1st-ish, weather dependent, of course. So we have a new playground going in. We are benches that have really seen better days. You're not real comfortable to sit on, and they're wood, so they really need to be refurbished. They're on the table to be replaced over the winter, so that we have new benches that match and that are more weather resistant, etc. So there'll be a bunch of benches. We also got a new bench from Kate's Angels at Nassau Point, and that's on the beach right there. So we do have some new benches, and we're getting a new basketball hoop because this is at Allison. Yeah, it's seen better days, so it's time to get a new one. Time to get a new basketball hoop. And so those are the items that are immediately, you'll expect to see that. So we have an agenda, and we have a list of items that need attention. And over time, between the winter, we'll make a decision as based on when those things will happen. It's really a solid 3 to 5 year plan. We need repaving done, and all of this is expensive. So there's just not enough. You have to wait every year to do a little job, a little job, a little job. So we're looking to do upgrades for the Allison Park playground as well. That needs some new stuff. But that being said, we're forming a recreation advisory committee for the park district to get community involvement for recommendations and ideas and input from the community to tell us really what they're looking for with regard to, we could buy a new playground and put it in, and then people would say, well, we should have done this, we should have done that. So if we involve the community on the front end of this and get their ideas and suggestions, we'll be able to work within the budget and the guidelines and the timeline and the practicality of it based on their recommendations and do what we can at that point. So I know in the past, many years past, the parks had swimming lessons and they had recreation and they had other activities. So maybe this committee would recommend that be brought back. So, but really, I think the community involvement is what's key there. I'm not sure. That probably in the 60s there was swimming lessons and tons of kids were there. I just don't see the population of children that we would need to support that. So we'll see. But those are the kinds of ideas we're looking for. So it'll be a voluntary committee. It'll meet, every so often, and with ideas and recommendations, of course. So we are recruiting for that. There'll be an ad in the paper coming up, looking to get people to get involved. We have a couple of people that have already expressed some interest, so that's good. And that's pretty much the organization piece. Now, the important part. The money.
Thanks. Thanks for that introduction. So my name's Steve Staroff. I joined the commission in April, and I was asked to be the treasurer for it. And I wanted to, first of all, start here a little bit in the bottom. I'll let you know that we're a taxing authority, which means that we're a line item when you get your annual tax bill from the town. We're down there at the bottom of Cutchogue, New Suffolk tax district. So we, and Dave was nice enough to add $50,000 to my budget, which is great, thank you very much.
Whoops.
But it's only $235. So, so the budgeting process is fairly straightforward. We take a look at what we spent last year. We take a look at what our fixed costs are, maybe what our variable costs would be, and there are some variables that I'll talk about in a bit. Okay, and then what do we want to do for the community? For instance, the park, the Causeway is going to get a new playground, all right? And playgrounds are not cheap, so we have to figure out how to budget it, how to allot for it, and it's something that the community can enjoy for many years to come. Same thing at looking at the benches that you saw. The benches are showing wear and tear. Look, you know, we're a community by the ocean. The elements have beaten it up. It's been probably there from day one, and it's time to put something new in there that people can sit and enjoy and watch the bay and the sailboat races and so on. So we think about these things when we're planning on the budgets, okay? Now to get a little bit into it, as you can see, our most expensive part of our budget are the salaries. We hire almost about 12 between beach attendants and lifeguards, as well as our employees, which would be the clerk, right, and our beach manager. So we take a look at what we need for that, and that's pretty much a fixed cost because we know how many people we're going to bring on board and so on. Insurance. We need insurance in the 2 parks. That's basically a fixed cost as well. The supplies are variable. We know what we need, right? We have defibrillators, the AEDs that are there. They need to be attended. They need to be updated. They get batteries. They get pads. All that has to be done every year at the beginning of the year. And also, they get inspected throughout the year, and we have to sign off on it. So if we have to replace it, we have to do that, okay? The floats that are out there. We need to, this year, we need to replace the floats because for the swimming area, because there's good barnacles, they get beat up, and every year, every couple of years, you need to buy new floats. So those are some of the things, including TP toilet paper, right? We've got to supply that. So those are some of the variables that we put out there to fix that out. Accounting, we don't have a clerk right now. The clerk was doing accounting. Fred was doing some of that. So we engage the services of a local CPA to help us with the accounting, keep our books in order. They'll be doing our payroll next year at a very reasonable rate. And again, we're supporting the local community. We didn't go anywhere outside for that. Legal, the same thing. Lori's been with us for many years. She supplies our legal services. She looks over our contracts. She attends our meeting. She gives us advice, as a civil group as we are. And we really rely on her to keep everything in order and as it pertains to rules and regulations that we have in there. Okay? Website maintenance, we need to update. We need to post our meetings, when we're going to have them. We need to post the minutes of those meetings out there. So we're looking for somebody right now to maintain that. We have somebody that we're going to speak to keep that updated. But again, that's going to be a cost. Utilities, obviously, electric, phone, all of those things that you can plan for in utilities that you need. Okay. Then comes park site maintenance. It was a learning experience for me how much goes into just maintaining the parks, whether it's keeping the benches as best we can for people to be able to use them, plumbing, all right, sprinkler systems, fixing things that just break, from usage in there. Plumbing, we have to actually clean it out, we have to winterize it, we have to open it up again for the season, the same thing on the sprinkler systems. So all that goes into the maintenance. The landscaping, right? There's got to be mowing, we've got to clear the area so that you can actually see the bay at Allison Park, which we have once every, 3 times a year. We cut it down, the bushes there, we have a permit for that, so you can actually see what's going on out there. So that goes into the park site maintenance, okay? And then it's like, okay, what can we supply to the community, all right, to make improvements? Something like the playground. Now, playgrounds are not inexpensive, all right? Playground, to give you an example, the playground in Tasker was $350,000. Our playground is not going to cost $350,000, but it is substantial. It's $50,000 to put in a playground for there, with all the rules, the implementation of it, and so on. And that's got to come out of something from a budget standpoint. So that's where the capital improvements come in. So the benches, we're going to upgrade the security systems as well. They're from probably 10 years ago, and things have improved. Storage has improved. And we want to be able to, let's say, 45, 60 days worth of information in case there's some issue at the park so we can recall what went on and supply the information to whoever needs it. So these are some of the capital improvements that we're making. And we need to have a reserve fund as well, okay, for things that we don't know will come up, right? Storms that we may have to do repairs on, just issues that are unplanned for. We need a reserve fund to make sure that there's money there so that we can do whatever repairs, fixes that we need to do, okay? So that's basically the budget that we come up with. The way we develop it is we develop the budget, we meet amongst the commissioners to determine what we want to do, how we want to do it. We post it in the newspaper for a couple of weeks, what the budget looks like. Actually, this is what was posted. And then we invite the community to come in and make comments and discuss it with us. And then we present our budget to the town, and then the town taxes accordingly and sends us our budget money at the beginning of the year to spend on it. Okay. Any questions?
Questions on anything?
On anything, yeah.
Yes, Carol?
Well, I just want to mention one thing, since the name Kalin kept coming up. We have Steve Kalin with us tonight, who's related to all these Kalins, so.
Like putting you on the spot.
We feel honored, we feel honored.
And I do want to say, Steve goes in there and takes care of the Wally Kalin Park on his own. He never sent us a bill for anything. And so, thank you very much, Steve, for your work that you do in there. We appreciate it.
I just putter around there once in a while.
Sounds like me around the house.
I did have a question.
Yes.
Okay, Halls Creek.
Mhm.
I just don't really get the point of owning that. Does it cost any money to own it?
It doesn't cost any money because we don't pay property taxes. You know, if we had to pay property taxes, yeah, that would be an expenditure, but it would be taxed at a very, very low rate because it's land that can't be developed. So since there are no property taxes, there's no cost for that land for us to.
It's such an odd thing. It just seems kind of pointless, but I guess it's nice in that it's not going to be,
And
well, it's not going to be developed anyway.
Yeah, it's not gonna be developed, but it is preserved, and, you know, you can go on the list of all the lands in Southwell Town that's preserved. Can't be fooled around with in the future.
Have you thought of putting some signage up there?
You know, it hasn't come up. My immediate reaction is, I don't want people trampling through it. I'd rather just leave it the way it is, natural, and,
People think
it's-
somebody owns it,
I
yeah.
know.
so they don't go trip.
Well, I talked to a
Well-
neighbor who didn't even realize
Well, it's
that it was
interest-
part of the park district.
It is interesting in that there's houses on the road there, I think it's Dean Drive.
Yeah,
And there's houses, and this area is in back of those houses. So for those property owners, it's a benefit because it's wetlands that would have probably been their property when it was all divided out way back when,
right,
but it wasn't. So it brings value to them
yeah,
because they don't have to pay a dime for it and they have this vista.
right,
Right, and
The
they know
wetlands.
it's never gonna be
Yeah,
developed.
and it's never gonna be
So
developed.
it's safe.
So,
right.
yeah. I thought I saw a question back here. And then, yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Tommy John. I am your
Tommy John.
incoming
Yes.
member of the New York State Assembly.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. You know what? Thank you to the Civic. I've been intrigued with these park districts here. I'm a commissioner myself in the town of Southampton. We have 4 districts. We operate them entirely different. You know, it's what we inherited, and I really am impressed with the model. Did the other park districts in Southold form at about the same time as this one? Do you know?
Yes, they did.
They did. They were kind of
Yeah,
divided.
so it was it came down from the state that the towns should divest and issue these park districts. And then it went back up to the state for approval. I have, in the original minutes, it has what what law, under what law, of what year, et cetera. And I can get that for you if you're interested. But yes, all 4 districts, Orient, Manitowoc, Laurel, us, and Southold, were broken off at that time in 1958. 58 and 59. So by the time it went from the town to the state and back down to the town, it was like, took about a year and a half.
And do you set your rates? Does the resident, is there a beach sticker involved?
There's a beach sticker for parking at Nassau Point, and there's no charge for that because people are paying in their taxes
Right.
for the park
Right.
district. So if you're a resident, you can get a
How
sticker.
about summer residents? I'm sorry, I just,
No, that's
I
okay.
told you, I'm curious.
If a summer resident owns, yeah,
Then you're good.
they have the right to.
Right, so
a
that's where the
sticker.
that's where the utility bill comes in, that they own, that they're a homeowner, although their cars aren't registered out here.
So if someone rented for the summertime?
Now, that's where it gets interesting.
Right.
What we have said, because that happens, I've been a commissioner for 3 years, my term is up in another 35 days. How many hours? What we have decided here is that the property owner can pick up a parking sticker. If the property owner wants to give that to a tenant for the summer, fine, no problem.
Do you have visitors
But-
passes? Or?
No, we do not have visitors passes. But, so we've kind of put that, because we get, without getting too far into it, there's a lot of people out here under Airbnb, E&B, and anyhow, that are here for weekends only, and they want to go and use the park district, and we say, no, we don't want our parks to be used by people other than the folks that pay for the parks through your taxes. And let me just clarify, just so everybody understands, the town does not set the amount of money that is put on your tax bill. It's a pass-through. Just like the fire department, just like the library, you see them on your taxes. The town doesn't establish how much the library's getting, or the fire department's getting, or the park districts are getting. We have a date in which we must provide our budget to the town, not for their approval, but just so they know, okay, the assessor's office has to know how much now to assess on your bill. Does that make sense? Because I don't want you to, sometimes residents go to the town board saying, we have a concern about our fire department, how much we're paying to the fire department. And their town board's going to say, sorry, you got to go talk to the fire commissioners. They're the ones who say.
That's what said.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a process to share so taxpayers don't have any input on like they don't get to vote on your budget?
Correct.
So, do you share the budget with the public?
Yes.
Yeah,
How does that work?
We, once we establish what our budget is, we post it in the Suffolk
Oh,
Times.
you do, okay.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks.
Oh,
And then we have a meeting, which is a public meeting, where we do solicit from the community, their thoughts on it, or, however, whatever they want to be able to do. And we take that into consideration when we present our final budget to the town. So yes.
We try to follow the same process that Southall Town follows. Southall Town, the departments give their budget request to the supervisor of the town board, have been established a budget, have a public hearing, the public gives comment, but the public doesn't vote on the budget, the town board votes on the budget. Question?
Could you also post that, so on your website or somewhere
Yes.
else other than, okay, you do already?
No. It should be posted on our website, absolutely. I'll just say that in the 3 years that I've been on as a commissioner, there was a lot of commissioners before us that did a great job, but we've identified a lot of things that were lacking, and one of them was we did not have a website. And so we established a website, and we are going through the growing pains of trying to get all the information now on the website that should be there. And absolutely, yes, the budget information should be there. The minutes are there, and the way that works, by the way, is the minutes are kept through Southall Town. And there's a link so that if you go to our website, it links you automatically to the town website, because they've got a great record-keeping process there in the town, a laser fish process, and that way these records will always, as long as the town's around, the records will always be there for the park district.
I have another question.
There's a depository of these records. Yes?
Okay, so the other question would be, we jointly own our home, we have 2 cars,
Mhm.
do we get 2 stickers?
Yeah, that would not
Okay,
be a problem.
fine, we just would bring them.
Yep, that's not a problem.
Also, I wanted to say, we live in Harvest Point, right up the street here, and I'll bet there are maybe 2 or 3 people even know anything about this.
Mhm.
You
Not the
know,
park district.
As at a park district, or even if this park is available, or any information like that. So I think this is something, I'm gonna talk to some of the people in the book club that I work with, you know. it's an
Excuse me,
interesting thing.
I put flyers in your mailroom
That's why
That's why we're here.
every month, religiously,
Okay.
okay?
Well, we-
Because I know where you're all hiding over there. All right? But sooner or later, you gotta get your mail.
We,
Alright.
we,
You're gonna put it out on the pickleball court.
Actually, my pickleball buddies at Harvest Point have no idea that we had a park district until I told them about it.
well, that's what I'm just saying, we've only been here obviously 2 years, but I think it is very interesting, I think people should know about it, kind of thing,
We
so I
should,
will certainly.
maybe, is there a way to host them to do this kind of a presentation? Because this is very informative.
Well, I agree, but I'm not gonna jump that far.
Right, so to your point, a lot of people are not aware that there is a park district, how it works, et cetera, which is why the Civic Association decided to do a little presentation on the kind of the ins
No,
and outs of the park district. And, you know, I think it's kind of interesting, and, you know, they're there, and, you know, until, listen, I've been in Cutchogue for a lot of years, and I had no idea until I, you know, got informed, you know, found out about it.
In this,
And only because I was mad about something.
As it often
Well, yeah.
this past summer, actually, the chairman of the different park districts got together for the first time, and it's the first time that's happened in a long time. We got together for a meeting to share the woes. And actually, it was an interesting meeting because it was called by the supervisor and the police chief, and because of and actually called by the Mattatuck Park District in Orient because of the tremendous problems they were having with people fishing at night, all night long, staying on the beaches, and all the problems associated with that. And so it was a great opportunity to meet the chairmen of the other commissions and to talk about other things that we felt like talking about. So I hope that continues at least once a year.
Is there any opportunity to put pickleball, I get this, even my own organization, they want pickleball tournaments. I go, how do you want it? Fine, I'm not gonna do a tournament, but people want it, and this is big. It's a,
Well, we don't have
I have
pickleball.
no idea what pickleball
what I'm
You don't
saying
want
is there an
pickleball courts.
opportunity to put pickleball courts maybe in Nassau Point, on the causeway?
No, first off,
He's
We don't want
leaving.
Yeah.
No pickleball for us.
it would be quite a challenge to pave a section of beach.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what you're doing, you're paving a section of beach, and to get it through the New York DEC,
And you don't
Department of
want-
State,
I'm
and
just
the town
saying.
trustees.
They all like it.
It's too
Well,
windy.
And
And so also, there's not enough width.
Yeah.
I mean, I entertain the thought, but at the end of the beach,
It's
you
so
need,
big right
what'd you
now.
say, 20 feet?
You need 30 feet wide,
Yeah.
and you
So
need,
discussed this.
you need 60 feet.
Yeah.
Well, I
Thought about it.
I
Rolled it
teach
around.
pickleball for the town, so I know the dimensions of the court,
Yeah.
right? So you need
Okay.
60 feet long and 30 feet wide. You wanna have-
And we don't have that dimension on the Nassau Point for even the parking lot, never
It's
mind
such a
the
huge
other
issue.
end, you know. But I was thinking bocce maybe, I don't know.
Ah, there we go.
There was a conversation about bocce down at Allison several years ago.
Oh.
I guess,
Yeah, well, question in the back.
It's a great game.
Yes,
Bocce.
yeah.
Pickleball, from right here. Did you say 1962, the dredging to augment the beach?
It was in the late 60s. No, hang on just a second. it was in the late 60s, dredging took place. It was 62 when the beach property was bought, when the causeway was established, but it was late, I don't think I have it here, but I think it was, completed in 69.
There you go.
So that's about when the whole dredging project was going on all up and down the North Fork here.
If you go through the navigation maps, if you have it, it tells you when the channels were dug out on your GPS. You know, if you have a regular GPS on your boat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is an absolute gem. I'm off to a fire chief's meeting.
Thanks for
You guys had me at septic savvy citizens. Whoever came up with that.
Good night.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
So there are three of you. Is there somewhere, is it written somewhere that it can only be three, that it
Yes,
must be?
it's in the charter that there's 3, and they're 3-year terms. Of course, they rotate, one person or one position rotates through, so that every year there's one position available. It's just sometimes what happens is somebody doesn't stay on for their full term. Then what happens is we can appoint somebody for that year, and then there has to be a special election for that person at the end of that year to continue on to fill that position.
Now, how do people even know they should vote?
You can look at that.
Saying,
So there is
We post it, we post it
It's in the
also
Suffolk Times.
in the Suffolk
Yeah.
Times. It's been posted for 2 or 3 weeks
Right.
that the election is gonna happen, where it's gonna take place, which is here,
So once
and the
again-
times of the election.
Do you have
So
some
that people
signs
know.
on, lawn signs or?
Well, they're going up soon.
Only if there's contested.
Contested, right.
Yeah.
All right,
But
just-
no, that is a good idea, just like we post our signs all around, our little flyers around town. Where, people that can come along to Sarah, then they would know about the vote.
I've seen some signs in other hamlets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, the park commissioner positions, historically, and when I say historically, I'll go over the last 10 years or so, people might remember in Mattatuck, it got very contentious a few years ago, and so there was a lot of press about running for park commissioner there, and the people that were running, and letters to the editor and all the rest, because there was an issue going on within the Mattatuck Park District.
Right.
We had the same thing happen here 2 years ago. We had an issue going on, it got a lot of public, input, I'll say. And so we had somebody who ran for commissioner at that time and got unbelievable turnout. Didn't make it through his seat. He decided to step down after he completed 2 years of his 3-year term. But 1 year, I'm sorry, he completed 1 year, yeah, 1 year. And he stepped
That's how I
down.
found out about this.
So,
That he was
Controversy.
out there.
Yeah,
about
controversy.
talking to folks who knew that district.
yeah, so,
And we came to vote that first year, no
Yeah.
longer, yeah.
yeah, a lot of people turned out to vote. Normally, what I was told always historically, that when they had the election, maybe 5 people would show up. Maybe.
Now there's a long line going out.
Yeah, I was on the board, I was a trustee for the Cutchogue Cemetery Association. And the same thing, the Cutchogue Cemetery Association has to have elections. And they have elections each year, and I think the person who's running comes in and votes, and that's it. It's not such an exciting job, believe me, to have, to be a trustee of the cemetery. But I was Yeah, as I always said, I got very few complaints from the residents. So anyhow, any other questions anybody might have for us?
Well, thank you very much. Very informative. And everybody, please remember our holiday party on December 12th, our annual meeting, December 12th.
And what time is the,
The annual meeting is 5:30 to 6, and then the party is 6 to 7:30. The Nino thing.
And the coffee tomorrow?
Oh, coffee tomorrow.
Thank you.
Agent Farm, 11.
11.
Be there.
Because I know all you people, I walk my dog